Tonight on Reporting Scotland, 3 men are arrested after Buchanan bus station in Glasgow was forced to evacuate this afternoon. The bomb squad was called out to reports of a suspicious package. Nearby Caledonian University was also evacuated. Also on tonight's programme, nearly 100 schools and nurseries are closed as freezing conditions continue across the country. And still to come, in a new documentary, our political editor Glenn Campbell talks about living with incurable brain cancer.
There's great clarity in being confronted with your own mortality because you realise what really matters in life and maybe what doesn't matter quite so much.
Coming up in the sport, Hearts announce a groundbreaking partnership, and could a multi-million-pound investment follow?
I had a good time. Did you have a good time?
I had an okay time. I was alright.
We hear from Gregor Fisher and Greg McHugh, who are teaming up as a father and son duo in the new BBC Scotland sitcom Only Child. Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Wednesday's programme. We start tonight with an ongoing situation that's caused huge disruption in Glasgow city centre. 3 people have been arrested after an incident which closed Buchanan bus station this afternoon. The bomb squad was called out after reports of a suspicious package there just after 1 o'clock. The nearby Glasgow Caledonian University was also evacuated. Well, our reporter Suzanne Allen is at the scene for us tonight. Suzanne, what's the situation like now then?
Well, Laura, you can probably see behind me there is a very, very large police presence here. Fire and rescue and the bomb squad have also been here for a number of hours. And what we've seen this afternoon is the emergency services in a huddle, specialist suits being pulled on and off, equipment going in and out of the bus station. And at one point, one eyewitness said they saw a robot go in round about 4 o'clock. Well, this incident started to unfold round about 1:10. Buchanan bus station was immediately closed. The surrounding streets are still shut off at the moment, and Glasgow Caledonian University students were evacuated. Now, this has caused, as you can imagine, significant travel disruption. Buchanan bus station is one of the busiest bus stations in Scotland, and I spoke to travellers earlier who've been affected.
We're going to the Butel Castle.
There we go.
And it's down south, like 3 hours. So
an hour and a half drive, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and what time is your bus?
So it's going to be 5:10, I guess not. No time right now.
So what are you going to do?
Chill out.
Trying to find somewhere that there'll be a bus will stop to go to Kirkcaldy. And I have no idea where that's going to be.
Might end up walking because I don't really know what to do, honestly. Because my home is not too far. It's actually a walking distance, about 45 minutes walk.
Well, 3 men have been arrested in connection with this incident. We understand they've been arrested in connection with the recovery of offensive weapons. Now, the police are saying, please avoid this area at all costs. This is still an unfolding situation.
Thank you, Suzanne. Now, parts of the country had their first taste of winter today. It looks lovely, doesn't it? But nearly 100 schools and nurseries were closed across the North East and Highlands due to the freezing conditions. And there's more on the way for the rest of us too. Weather warnings are in place for much of the country over the coming days. Phil McDonald reports.
Slippery pavements, okay for some. Heavy snowfall covering large parts of the North East overnight.
This is first snow day, yep, his first snow. Well, I love it, and I don't know if I was more excited when I opened the curtains this morning, but no, on with the snow gear and out we are.
The Knecht School, one of around 50 in Aberdeenshire that closed for the day. Many others had to delay their openings or go without pupil transport. In the Highlands, 25 schools couldn't open, along with 8 in Moray and 2 in Shetland. But it wasn't all bad news. Families making the most of the day off.
It's good to have a day off sometimes for the snow days. I used to love it when I was a kid, so I'm happy for them to enjoy it too. But normally it's only about 10 minutes before they're crying to go home.
Wintry weather arrived in the northeast earlier this week. Yellow warnings for snow have been in place for days now. Some have struggled on the roads. This bus toppled over after hitting ice just north of Mintlaw yesterday morning, but nobody was hurt. Stagecoach taking the decision to cancel some services due to the conditions. It was an early start for some staff at Aberdeen Airport this morning. The runway had to be cleared to keep air traffic moving. Forecasters say this is the first taste of winter, with temperatures lower than normal for this time of the year. The Met Office says there's a good chance of further disruption.
More wintry weather does appear to be on the way. Warnings for snow and ice remain in place across the north and west of Scotland until midday tomorrow. And it is likely, with further warnings in place, that the rest of Scotland will see some wintry weather over the weekend. Phil MacDonald reporting Scotland in Aberdeenshire.
The US President-elect Donald Trump will come to Scotland next year for the opening of his new golf course in Aberdeenshire. So says his son, who's currently on a visit here. But any meeting with the First Minister could be a little awkward. Before the election, John Swinney gave his support to his rival, Kamala Harris, a move Eric Trump has called nasty and foolish. Well, today Mr Swinney defended his comments, saying he'd since made it clear the Scottish Government will work together on issues of mutual interest. Here's our political correspondent, Andrew Kerr.
Flying the flag for Donald Trump in Aberdeenshire, workers at the Trump International Golf Course celebrated on news of his re-election. The president-elect swept back into power, Kamala Harris conceding defeat. Days before, the First Minister had firmly backed the Democrat candidate.
People in the United States of America should vote for Kamala Harris, and I've not come to that conclusion only because Donald Trump is opposed to Scottish independence.
Donald Trump's son Eric has been visiting Aberdeenshire. He'd declined a BBC interview, but speaking to the Press Association, he was critical of John Swinney's comments, calling them nasty and adding this.
I think it's foolish. It's sad because as much as I root for the United States, because I'm American, I root for this country. I root for the thousands of employees that I have in this country. I root for the properties that we have in this. I want Scotland to be incredibly prosperous. I want the UK to be incredibly prosperous. And I don't think those things are all that helpful.
The First Minister was asked if his own comments had been undiplomatic.
When you're a politician, you've just got to answer the questions that are put in front of you. And I answered the question about who I'd prefer to be the President of the United States when I did, before the election. But the result is over. Democracy has expressed its view, and I've made it clear to President-elect Trump that the Scottish Government will work cooperatively with the United States Government on issues of mutual interest.
Eric Trump confirmed his father would visit next year, leading the Greens to call for mass protests.
There are a great many people right across Scotland who will reject his toxic values of racism, misogyny, climate denial, conspiracy theories, and the direct threat that he poses to basic democratic norms.
Now preparing for power once again, the president-elect is surrounded by some of the most influential people in the world. A diplomatic tightrope for the UK and Scotland awaits over the next 4 years. Andrew Kerr, reporting Scotland.
The Scottish and UK governments are in talks over deporting foreign criminals so they can serve their sentences in their home countries, easing overcrowding in our prisons. It's not clear how many would be involved, but the Scottish Conservatives argue it would be one alternative to letting prisoners out of jail early. Our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan reports.
The Scottish Prison Service says the jail population is heading towards an all-time high, going past 8,500 early in the new year, unless the Scottish Government's latest proposals are backed by Parliament. Those plans will cut the sentences of prisoners serving less than 4 years. At present, they're released after completing 50% of their jail term. That would be lowered to 40%. The government says it would allow between 260 and 390 prisoners to be freed in February.
We would really welcome that legislation passing through Parliament. What it gives is a more sustained position in terms of release of short-term prisoners. So for us, it definitely would be a welcome relief.
The Scottish Government argues the change will allow prisons to function safely and effectively. It won't apply to anyone convicted over domestic abuse or sexual offences. The Scottish Conservatives say early release will ride roughshod over decisions made by judges, and overcrowding is a crisis of the SNP's making.
They want to spend £4 million on enacting a law that will mean violent criminals, people that have harmed other people who are behind bars for good reason, will be let out prematurely.
Figures show that foreign nationals made up 7.6% of the prison population at the beginning of October. That's 629 inmates. Roughly half have been convicted of a crime. The rest are on remand, waiting to go on trial. The Scottish Government has confirmed it's been talking to the UK Government about deportation as another measure to get the jail population down. But it's a complex area and not at all clear how many prisoners might be involved. Tomorrow, the emergency bill will be debated by MSPs at Holyrood. By this time next week, hundreds of prisoners in jails like Barlinnie will know whether their time behind bars will be cut short. David Cowan reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
To some of the day's other stories now. And a 26-year-old man has appeared in court charged with the murder of a 21-year-old woman in East Kilbride. Ewan Methven, also from East Kilbride, made no plea or declaration when he appeared at Hamilton Sheriff Court this afternoon. The body of Phoenix Spencer Horn was found in a flat in Glenlee in the town on Monday. Ewan Methven was remanded in custody. Unions representing the workforce at the Grangemouth refinery are calling for an independent review to consider the viability of repurposing the plant. The refinery is due to close next spring with a loss of 400 jobs, but Holyrood's Economy Committee has been hearing a plea for other options to be considered. Up to 300 jobs should be created at GB Energy's new headquarters in Aberdeen, according to its new boss. Jürgen Mayer, who was appointed chairman in June, told MPs there was a lot of opportunity to create a workforce from the oil and gas sector at its new headquarters. Now, last year, our colleague, BBC Scotland's political editor Glenn Campbell, received the devastating news that he had incurable brain cancer. Ever the journalist, though, he decided to turn the camera on himself to document what he thought could be the final few months of his life, but also to shine a light on the disease. The result is a documentary going out tonight on BBC One Scotland. Here's Glenn's story in his own words.
There's great clarity in being confronted with your own mortality because you realise what really matters in life and maybe what doesn't matter quite so much.
My name's Glenn Campbell. I am a husband, a father of 2 children, and I'm currently political editor at BBC Scotland.
Hey, how are you?
So interviewing Prime Ministers and First Ministers.
Did I give anything to STV that's going to embarrass Glenn?
Last year, I fell off my bike and I broke 10 ribs. I was ready to go back to work when something even worse happened. I got a scan and that's what revealed that I had a brain tumour. So basically I'd been told I had a terminal illness, and that's a big blow. It's devastating. And I thought, well, you're still here, what do you want to do with your life? And one of the things I came up with was, I love climbing mountains. Why don't you climb every Munro in Scotland to raise as much money and as much awareness as we can? You know, why don't you just set yourself that challenge and get on with it? But it's also for me, you know, it's something that I can do, that I love, that makes me very happy.
This is me living with my brain tumour. Yes!
Woo! Fantastic! So I've kind of woven it into the fundraising and the awareness raising.
Thanks very much for being here. Thanks for raising lots of money for a good cause, and have a great cycle.
The treatment has not really changed in a generation. For me, you know, if I can stick around long enough, maybe there will be a breakthrough. But to be honest, I'm more focused on trying to move the science on so that the patients that have yet to be diagnosed have a better experience. I certainly wouldn't have wished to be in this situation, but I'm still having a good life. I'm learning to live with my cancer. I'm not going to worry about dying from it unless that's staring me in the face. And I want to get as much out of every day as I possibly can.
And you can see Glenn's film, My Brain Tumour and Me, tonight here on BBC One Scotland, just after this programme at 7 o'clock and later on the BBC iPlayer. The anti-poverty charity Trussell say they've distributed more than 120,000 emergency food parcels between April and September this year. That includes more than 40,000 for children. As the charity launches its Christmas appeal, they're calling for changes to child benefits, including an increase in the Scottish Child Payment. Richard Forbes has been to visit a food bank in Tranent in East Lothian.
Michaela's making up food parcels for delivery, but she used to be the one receiving them.
It was pretty dark time. It was tough to go from two parents in the household, both earning a full-time wage, and suddenly I was a single parent with 4 young children and no income whatsoever.
This is one of 43 food banks that Trussell runs across Scotland. It's handed out 120,000 food parcels this year.
It's hard to ask for help, and I think, from speaking to some of our food bank community, they've gone, well, I didn't want people think I'd failed my family. I didn't want to think that I couldn't feed my child or I couldn't feed myself.
The charity is also putting pressure on politicians to increase child benefits as part of its anti-poverty campaign. In response, the Scottish Government said, "The Scottish Child Payment is a new benefit unique to Scotland. Analysis from the Fraser of Allendore Research Institute suggests the Scottish Child Payment successfully reduces food bank usage, particularly for single adult households." With Christmas just around the corner, food banks are asking for people to consider helping out this year. Michaela is one of those who's already volunteered.
I wanted to give something back to the people that supported me and hoping that we can make a difference.
Richard Forbes reporting there. OK, let's get tonight's sport now with Lewis and Chris. Hi.
Thanks very much, Laura. Yes, indeed, plenty to get into with Chris. Hello there. Hearts remain on track to secure a multi-million-pound investment from Brighton owner Tony Bloom as the Tynecastle club confirmed a partnership with what they've described as a world-leading football data company, Jamestown Analytics. Chris McLaughlin is our sports news correspondent and joins me. Chris, talk of a multi-million-pound deal will certainly excite Hearts fans, won't it? But what's the sort of timeline for this?
Well, Tony Bloom and Hearts have been in conversations for months now about the possibility of him taking a minority stake in the Tynecastle club. Figures of around £10 million have been reported. We don't know how accurate those are. We do know the talks are going very well. I wouldn't expect anything concrete to happen until next year. But as you say, look, fans love an investment. They love a multi-million-pound investment even more. It's looking good, but we don't expect anything until perhaps next year.
And talk to me a little bit about the analytics company as well. That's interesting, isn't it?
It's really interesting. Remember the Brad Pitt film Moneyball? It's kind of something like that. So this is essentially taking data and complex algorithms and trying to find players who will fit into your team. This isn't new in football. Clubs have been doing this for a long time, but what Hearts say is different this time for them is that they will have exclusive Scottish access to a firm who say that they are the very best in the business. Now, they have done very well with Brighton. The model there is taking undervalued players, putting them out on loan, and then cashing in either on the pitch or off the pitch by selling those players at a much higher price. Now, Hearts say this is groundbreaking. They say this is really exciting for the club. Obviously, we will have to wait and see.
We certainly will. Chris, thanks as always. Now, Scotland will be a pot 3 team for next month's World Cup qualifying draw, meaning that they could face the likes of Wales, Norway or Hungary from pot 2. Before the qualifiers though, Steve Clarke's side will face one of Ukraine, Greece, Austria or Turkey in a playoff to stay in League A of the Nations League. That draw takes place on Friday and the matches are played in March. Now, the former Rangers, Hearts and Kilmarnock striker Kyle Lafferty says he blames himself for some of his biggest career disappointments, including the 10-match ban he served for being filmed making a sectarian comment. The Northern Irishman, who won 89 caps for his country, was at Killie at the time of the incident, which he believes effectively ended his international career. In a wide-ranging interview, which you can read and watch on the BBC Sport website, Lafferty also speaks about his gambling addiction and his love of playing for Rangers.
Drop my kids off at school, get abused. Go out for a coffee, get abused. So anywhere I go, I've always got abused every single day of your life, and I bite my tongue the majority of the time, and then that one time it's been videoed and it's become national news that what's happened, and that's obviously one of the disappointments that I've got.
And finally, the surprise of being handed the Scotland captaincy was nothing compared to this for Sione Tuipulotu and his brother Mosese when their 77-year-old grand Jacqueline, originally from Greenock, flew in from Western Australia to watch her grandsons play for their country this weekend.
We're about to go surprise the Sky Scanner ultimate fan. He's waiting in the change room. Let's go.
Hello. Graham. Hello, my wee man. Hello. Oh.
I gave up on this dream of my gran coming to watch me play over here. Didn't think it was possible.
I love that, Laura. Your grandson's going to be big physical rugby players. They're still wee, man.
Absolutely, always, always. I hope they put on a show for Granny this weekend.
Here's so for it as well.
Thanks
very
Liz.
much.
OK, let's go over to Laura McKeever to find out what's happening on the BBC Scotland channel at 9 o'clock.
Tonight, the BBC understands Ukraine has fired a UK-manufactured long-range missile into Russia. We'll have the latest at the top of the programme. As the rate of inflation sees its steepest month-on-month rise for 2 years, we'll ask what it might do next. And ahead of tonight's Country Music Awards, we'll hear from an Ayrshire singer on why he's made the move to Nashville. We'll see you all at 9.
Now, they've starred as two of Scotland's most famous comic creations, Rabsy Nesbitt and Gary Tank Commander. Now, Gregor Fisher and Greg McHugh are teaming up in very different roles in a new BBC Scotland sitcom hitting our screens tomorrow night. Only Child is about a son who returns home to help his recently widowed father and the intergenerational differences that presents. Our entertainment reporter David Farrell has been speaking to them.
Does this happen every day?
That's to remind me to put the bird seed out.
Trying to show your parents how to use a tablet or set up a new banking password are modern-day tasks many of us can relate to. In the new BBC sitcom Only Child, it's all that and a bit more, according to actor Greg McHugh.
But it's really funny, but also really touching. It's got everything. That's why they're going to tune in.
It's got everything.
No action sequences.
Yes,
just not with us. Just to be clear, you never mentioned anything about a funeral. I hardly knew Malcolm. He was your friend.
My friend, you got to be joking. I couldn't stand the man.
Gregor Fisher plays Ken, a recently widowed father who struggles to come to terms with the modern world. But for Gregor, he can see a lot of himself in his character.
Well, what got me about the entire programme was that I know this man inside out. Because I too have various struggles with, you know, the codes you've got to put in, passwords.
Right, yes.
Right. So the short answer is that I am there.
No. Dad, no. You're not seriously going to...
I think this is the closest I've played to me of late, certainly. And the relationship I have with my parents is, in terms of what I think, giving them decent advice, and they throw it back in my face.
What day is this?
Tuesday.
Oh, I must have taken Tuesdays. I'll just take Wednesdays.
No, wait.
This is the dream combination. I've got to say, I loved filming the show, and we had a great time. And Bryce Hart, who wrote the scripts, has done an amazing job. I mean, this is when you stayed in the middle distance for a bit, but I had a good time. Did you have a good time?
I had an okay time. I was all right.
Oh. Here's my bird. Dad, is there anything in this fridge that's still in date?
Oh, will you give me peace? Honestly, my generation didn't pay any attention to sell-by dates.
And out of everything you've done in your career, where do you place this then?
I haven't a clue. I know I've enjoyed it. I think it's a very great, I think it's a terrific piece of writing.
Well, if Gregor Fisher has enjoyed it, that's the only accolade this show needs. David Farrell, reporting Scotland.
Looks like fun. OK, Christopher is here with the weather, and lots of people experiencing wintry conditions today, but it's not actually technically winter yet, is it?
Another 10 days of autumn still to go. It looks like winter though, doesn't it?
Yeah, beautiful.
Picture there from one of our weather watchers, scores of them coming in today. And it's going to remain cold throughout the rest of this week, but turning back to more autumnal fare at the weekend.
Doesn't know what it's doing.
Yeah, that means wind and rain, and still a little bit more snow to come as well, Laura. Thanks very much indeed. Very good evening to you. Yes, we've had fairly frequent snow showers across parts of the north and through the Highlands and Islands. Some crisp sunshine around though for many. Great picture there of Piper the Westie just enjoying the sunshine. But back to the serious business of weather warnings. We've got frequent snow showers still to come across parts of the north and west, and also a separate warning for ice across the northeast, central and southwestern parts. Treacherous conditions on untreated roads and surfaces, because overnight tonight we've still got those snow showers and the temperatures will fall away. Some of those showers just merging at times, and there could be some thunder snow as well. Temperatures well below freezing, icy in the countryside, -7 or colder. So tomorrow it's a very similar day of weather to today. It's cold, frequent showers in the north and west, sunnier in the south and east. And actually across the Northern Isles, the temperature's not quite as cold as today, so the showers here more likely to be of rain and the winds from a northeasterly direction. Across the mainland, those showers will be falling as snow, further accumulations of snow to come. In the east, it's sunny, but in the west, those showers will be frequent as they work their way southwards. Once again, a mixture of rain, sleet and snow, and into tomorrow evening, we could see a band of them working their way in towards the southwest, so perhaps a tricky commute here tomorrow evening. Elsewhere tomorrow night, it's clear and cold once again with showers continuing in the north. And then on Friday, it's a quieter day. There's still a cold day. There'll be some sunshine. There'll still be a few showers in the southwest. At best, 2 to 4 Celsius across the mainland. And then all change. And this is the pressure sequence for Saturday. A deep area of low pressure moving in. As that rain meets the cold air, a potentially significant spell of snow, particularly across the higher ground, but occasionally to lower levels. If you are planning to travel on Saturday, keep abreast of the forecast because it does look disruptive, as well as the snow, some heavy rain and strong to gale force winds too. Autumn's back. That's the forecast.
OK, thank you, Christopher. Now, tonight's main news again. 3 men have been arrested after Buchanan bus station in Glasgow was forced to evacuate this afternoon. The bomb squad was called out to reports of a suspicious package. Nearby Caledonian University was also evacuated. And that is Reporting Scotland. Anne McAlpine will be here with your late news at 10:30. Remember, Glenn Campbell's documentary is up next. In the meantime, enjoy your evening. Good night.